Hey, what's up guys, Stefan here. Today we are checking out Native Instruments' latest expansion, Global Shake, an expansion dedicated to the contemporary club sounds coming out of Africa. Afrobeats, Kuduro, Kazomba, Afro House, genres that are influencing music across the world right now. This influence is huge here in London, with many Afrobeat inspired songs in the charts at present. So, I've never made this type of music before. Today is my first attempt, but with Global Shake providing me with the correct sound palette and some lovely loops, hopefully I can get off to the right start. I'm going to make two quick beats, one in Maschine and the other in Logic Pro 10, using only sounds from Global Shake. I'm also going to attempt to use every aspect of the expansion to give you guys a good idea of the type of content this expansion has to offer. So, as you saw in the intro, I started with a mallet. The drums are going to follow this rhythm. This expansion has a load of pre-made kits that we can quickly pull up to get something going. I've checked out a few already and I particularly like this You Bad kit. Of course, this style of music is syncopated, so I'm going to turn up the swing a tad just to give it that correct feel. Turn on the radio right now here in the UK and I can guarantee you, at some point during the day, you will hear this pattern. Cool, so I'm going to add some hi-hats in a moment, but before we do that, let's see what we have by way of percussion loops to quickly fill up this pattern. So as you can see, there's a bunch of percussion loops we can use here, and the great thing about this is that they are automatically put in time when we load them into our group. Last touch on the drums, I want to put in some trap inspired hi-hats. Nothing too complex, it's not a trap beat, but it helps give it that modern sound that people are used to at the moment. We can also add a little snare fill here at the end. When previewing the expansion, I found a load of cool vocal samples, so let's check those out and see if we can add one or two to the beat. So there's a lot that we can use here, but for the UK Afrobeat inspired sound that I'm going for, they often use high-pitched female vocals in the background, so let's go with that. I'm going to bring up the actual vocal chipmunk group, however, as there's some pretty cool effects already applied in this group. So as you can hear, there's some delay being applied to the sound here. But we have a slight problem here because the vocal is in the wrong key. So let's quickly fix that whilst preserving its tempo because it sounds like it's pretty much in time already. So if you don't know how to do this, it's very simple. You head to Sampling, Edit, Stretch, Settings, Free Mode, and then we can tune it. I believe it's a semitone flat, so let's sharpen it by one semitone, hit Apply, and we're done. So as you can hear now, it's in the right key and the tempo is exactly the same. Cool, so let's head back to instruments and then add a bass line. So with the bass again, super simple with a slight polyrhythm going on there between the bass and the mallet. If you listen carefully, for the most part, they are playing at the same time, but there's a short moment where they both have their own time to shine, basically, where they hit on different beats. I'm actually going to add another polyrhythm, something that may come in the chorus or pre-chorus, something like that. We'll leave it there. But before we wrap up, let's quickly dive into Logic and look at some of the construction kits that come with this expansion, and also take a look at the kind of approach we may take when working outside of Maschine. So as with all expansions, we can access all of the samples and loops outside of Maschine. In Logic, I'm using the media browser to access the Global Shake samples and loops. I'm able to preview them as I would in Maschine, and it's as simple as dragging the files I want into Logic's main window to get going. Like I said, I'm new to this genre, so I'm going to check out some of the construction loops, which are pretty much full loops broken down into stems, with each of the different elements or a small combination of elements having their own file. So as you can see, we have the different elements broken down. We have keys, percussion, drums. We also have some combinations. These could be drums and keys, for example. And we have full, which is all of the elements present. But we can use some of these smaller elements to get some ideas going and also start as the foundation of our track. So I'm going to start with the percussion and drum loops, and once again we have the freedom to change the tempo of the loops if we want to, but I'm going to stick with the default 120 BPM because why not? Now the cool thing is that if I want to change this drum pattern but preserve the sound of the kit, I can easily pull up the same drum kit used in this loop inside of Battery 4. Or Battery 4 inside of Complete Control, which is what I'm going to do as it gives me the light guide. So now that we have our drum beat and some chords, let's quickly add a bass line. And finally, I'm going to add the quasi guitar loop, but make a few edits to help it fit with everything else we have going on here. Now, I just performed a few cuts within Logic, but if you want to get more creative, there's nothing stopping you from throwing the loops back into Maschine and chopping them up there, and then playing them like samples. But that's it for this video. Thank you for making it to the end. But before you go, I'd love to hear from you down in the comment section below. I'd love to know your thoughts on this expansion from what you heard, and to answer any questions you might have. Also, how did I do on my first attempt? If you're new to this channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more content like this every week. I've been Stefan, and as always, happy beat making.